be here. You know, it's always nice to be featured in front of the group. Help get the name out. Show of hands, anyone who's familiar with Keg and Lantern? Sweet, so we got this side of the room, the back. You guys are missing out right now, but whoa! That's not me. That was Anthony. Not me. So yeah, I'll just be honest, crowd work's not my best, and there's nothing quite as terrifying as being in a room with beer enthusiasts when you have to talk about beer. So I'll just try to keep it brief for now, and then we'll pass out some beers. Just killing the vibe. Oh, all right, we got volume. Here we go. Are you gonna hear us in Jersey? So yeah. Keg and Lantern. We started in Brooklyn in Greenpoint. Started off as just a local Irish pub. 2 Irish owners who got sick of paying bills, I guess, and decided to bring in brewing equipment. In 2014. 2009 is when we started the brewery, the pub, sorry. And this week is actually our 13-year anniversary. So, and from there we just brewed on a small 3-barrel system in the basement, always doing different styles, always doing different beer, a few of which have stuck over the years that you'll be trying tonight. And from there we just started to self-distribute in 2019. We opened our second location in Red Hook, Brooklyn. It's a much larger 10-barrel system.
Ooh.
How many? We got 7 steel fermenters, 7 20-barrel fermenters now, a 100-barrel foeder, which 2 of the beers you're gonna have come out of 2 bright tanks. We have our own canning line.
Wow.
So yeah, you know, we're just scaling up. It all started small and no huge investment behind us, just word of mouth, and then our distributor right now is kicking ass for us, pardon my friend. So yeah, that's where we're at. I think the first beer we're gonna try tonight is... Okay, so frequently asked question, where does the name Keg and Lantern come from? I just found this out myself. There was a bar in Queens back in like the late 90s, early 2000s called Keg and Lantern. Our owner, that was his local hangout. That bar closed around like 2006, and when he went to open up his bar, he just stole the name. So I could have told you some story about like it evokes imagery from The Hobbit and the Prancing Pony and all that, but that's the truth. Yeah, I mean, just stole it.
You can't steal it if they're not in business anymore.
Yeah, that's right. I guess the trademark ran out on it, but yeah. So I think the first beer we're going to start with is our Mexican lager. It's the lightest offering we have in terms of like mouthfeel and flavor. Pocho, it's been around with us for a while, and it's generally our spring, summer seasonal beer that we might push year round. We might do a dark version of it. We don't know. So yeah, enjoy. Hope you guys enjoy that. And that'll be around shortly, I guess. There it is. Mike's coming around with it now.
Sonic.
He's supposed to look like Judging Day.
So this is Pocho. Pocho. Very
So has everyone gotten a sample? Yeah. All right. Well, cheers. Cheers. Thanks again for coming out.
All right.
Prost. Santé. Salud. So this beer, Pocho Mexican lager, we try and make to honor the same style that you would get if you were in Mexico, right? Modelo's, Pacifico, obviously Corona. We brewed this with Motueka hops, which a distinct characteristic of that beer is that it gives a lime zest quality to it, so that you sort of don't need the lime. And then the adjunct, I guess, the biggest question is what makes a Mexican lager, right? I guess the answer is corn, essentially. Yeah, instead of rice, we use corn. So there it is. Traditionally, the style has very low ABV, very clear, scarce bitterness, if you will. So I hope you guys enjoy it. 3470 is the yeast we use if we really want to get super technical about it. And we pitch that into the wort I've learned today, which is always nice to learn new things. So hope you guys are enjoying the beer, enjoy your food, enjoy the conversation. So yeah, we do make some darker beers seasonally. Right now, down at Red Hook, we have a Gothic dark lager, which is more of a Czech style dark lager, Vienna style lager. We have okay, so this, ironically, we have a white stout right now.
Whoa.
We have an imperial stout that's been aging in Widow Jane bourbon barrels since last November. We're waiting to get a full year on that before we keg it off. That'll be our like December deep or winter seasonal beer. We have a Oktoberfest that's about to be released. That's a Marzen style, so more amber as opposed to the fest beers that are out now this time of year to celebrate the wedding of King Ludwig in 16 something or other. But yeah, we do in-house on our own draft lines. We are constantly rotating different styles. Since we went to distribution, we've sort of focused on pour beers. Basically everything you're drinking tonight is part of our core. This golden ale that's being poured right now is the first beer recipe we ever created as a brewery when we started brewing beer. And it is more synonymous with our brewery than any other beer that we've made. And so that is our volume driver on draft and bars around the city where we distribute. We're in Long Island and Westchester with 5 Boroughs right now. 5%, this one's brewed with rice. Yeah, this one's a rice ale. That keeps a lightness to it. We've got a little bit of bitterness on the end. And having had this around so long, every brewer that we've had has been able to get his hands on it, sort of tweak it, improve it, and this past May it actually won us a gold medal at the TAP New York event up at Bethel Woods in May. So we're really proud of this beer. It is sort of the face of our brewery. Yeah, and it's the most approachable beer that we have, that we package, that we put on draft. It's a good second course, if you will. Goes well with onion rings, ribs, burgers, whatever else you see out there on the food. So yeah, this is a little bit more of a step up from the Pocho. The Pocho would be like the lightest, and we're just moving up in the flavor profile here.
All these beers are the same color.
The Daydreamer will smell a lot different than the first 2 beers. I hope everyone likes sour beers because that's sort of something we specialize in.
I love sour beer.
Get ready. The next course will be a beer we call Daydreamer. Mike, is that what you have, Mike? You have a Daydreamer? All right, so this is a fun beer for us. When we opened our place in Red Hook, we opened with these 200-barrel fooders. If you're not familiar with a fooder, it is a huge oak barrel to the ceiling, around this size. I mean, it holds 200 kegs of beer, essentially. And the first beer we ever put into it was a Pilsner. Czech-style Pilsner, Pilsner yeast, Pilsner malt. We lagered it, and then we threw it in there, and the idea was that it would just age with the oak, the wood, the same way it does with wine or bourbon, would impart its natural flavor characteristics onto it. The problem is, it got infected with a wild yeast from another beer that we had. So we had to add Brettanomyces to it to clean it up. And that is what adds the sour, wild characteristics that you're about to have. The oak gives it almost like a wine nose to it, and then it drinks clean and dry because the beer itself is still, could be a Pilsner if it were lagered that way, but it's not lagered to be a Pilsner anymore, so it's very clean and dry and crisp. We also fruit this beer now. So we do like a second aging in totes. The fruit we use is blood orange, which gives it a great color and just adds another depth or layer of flavor, I guess, for lack of a better word. So yeah, this one is not for everyone. This is definitely a funky beer that needs to be explained. If you grabbed a can off the shelf and you didn't know what a lot of these key words were, you'd probably think it was bad beer. But for us in-house, we crush it. It flies off our draft lines.
What?
And it's the kind of beer that you would maybe go to a tap room to have, I would think, you know, like you have anyone's IPA out in the market, but when you go to someone's actual physical location, I always like to at least try the different stuff, the more experimental stuff that the brewers are messing around with down in their labs, you know, their dojos, if you want to call them that. But yeah, the first time I ever had this beer, I didn't know what to think of it, and after 3 years, it's become mother's milk to me, really. It takes a while, this one. I mean, the first sip is a doozy. The second one, still kind of a doozy. And then you start to really build on you. It's not as shocking after a while, and you get to taste it a little bit better, you know, as you blow out your palate. Because we have the last one probably blow out your palate, so that's why I'm ending with it.
So the question is about the grain bill used in this compared to our Jazz Chickens line, which is another sour line of ours. So the grain bill in this can be slightly different. We use a base malt of Pilsner malt by Environment, so it's a little bit slightly different. Aside from that, we also use 2-row, where in our other one we use 6-row, so it's just a slight difference in the grain. We use one from the other. You might taste some more crispness in this than you'll taste in the Jazz Chickens, which will be the biggest difference in the grain.
Everyone, I know everyone's eating and talking and having a good time, but just trying to keep it to a minimum a little bit so everybody can hear. Thank you.
So, thoughts on the Daydreamer? I've seen some faces being made.
I like it.
Show of hands, who likes it? You're all being very kind, thank you very much.
No, I really love sour beers.
Show of hands, who would never drink this again? Thank you for being honest, everyone. We know who the honest people are.
I mean, like, I'm a real big fan of sour beers. Like, my first experiment into sour beers was a Goza, and it was a traditional. No, wait. The first Goza I ever had was. I always mess up the name of the brewery. I think it's Anderson Valley. They have the one Goza where it's the blood orange, and it's got like the bear and the road sign on it. Very good. They keep changing it. Like, they still make the Goza, but like they change what, like its flavor profile. But it's still a really good one. One of the best ones I had. There's a traditional one. There's a traditional Gozas from Leipzig, but I can't remember the names of their brewers. Because there's one like it's got like a guy on it, kind of like this. It's got like a smiling dude on it, and that's all I can remember. I forget who makes it.
I'll say this time of year it's a very popular style of beer. You know, salty, refreshing.
I had.
So right now, coming around is our West Coast IPA.
Ooh.
7%, so it's going to be palate shock after the Daydreamer. Might even cleanse it a little bit. This is a very traditional style of IPA, as opposed to the hazy, citrusy style that is sort of the rage these days. This is, if Golden is the first beer we ever produced, Green Eyes is the second beer we ever produced. In our cans, this is our fastest moving beer in our 16-ounce selection. It is very hoppy, piney, resinous. So we're using, in this one, we're using the big West Coast hops, Chinook, Cascade, Centennial, Columbus, and those all, that's like hop central. I don't think it's overly hoppy. I feel like in around like 2007, American craft IPAs just tried to out ABV everyone and out hop everyone. I think this beer is very clean and balanced. I'm very biased when I say this, though, so you please make your own conclusions. Yeah, this is the second most recognizable beer that we make for sure. If you've ever been to either of our locations, I'm sure you've had it. I hope that you love it, and we left a great review on Untapped or Yelp. That's the Green Eyes, yeah.
Who's Green Eyes?
Not mine. Legend has it, the first brewer's first love at Green Eyes.
Ah.
I think. From what we know tonight.
Is it a lost love?
Probably, yeah. Probably. But our cans have sort of this like Great Gatsby-inspired label with the city skyscape and some Green Eyes on it. I hope you guys like this. I mean, it's just for us is, again, we crush this beer in-house, crush it on draft. And it's like an homage to the West Coast. Once we made this as the hazy craze was starting, essentially. We also make hazy beers as well. So this is one we really sort of rest our hat on when it comes to that case.
You know, what was interesting, I was trying to get into this internship with Bronx Brewery. I didn't get into it. But I was reading up on how they make, that's the Green Eyes, that's the IPA. I was reading up on hops, and you know, I had always heard about hops, and then I found out that only the female hops are used in beer. And not only that, the males are, if at most, rarely ever used. And I can't remember the oils. There's the specific names again with a very, they end with things, very special things. But now I can't remember them off the top of my head. But finding out that the female hops are only used was interesting. I just thought hops were hops.
So you are right. Usually it's alpha hops that we use for bittering and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Most of the time, female hops, it should be male or female technically, are the ones that carry the most alpha into it. So that's the only thing. But either way, yeah, it'll be usually the ones with the highest alpha that are used for the bittering process in most of like the IPA, especially like Green Eyes.
Now I've always wondered, when you hop the beer, is it like, are you putting them in like a cheesecloth sack and you put it in there?
No, actually hops, we get pelleted hops.
Pellets.
Yeah, so hop pellets, which are crushed up hops that put into pellets. You also have hops that are fresh hops, which is like straight off of the flower, straight off of the plant. You can get that, but when you get that, you have to use it right away. Some companies
they don't have a shelf. They don't have a good shelf life.
Exactly. So where pelleted hops we keep refrigerated in our walk-ins, we keep them sealed so they stay fresh for a long time, so we can keep on using them. But most of the time, it's dropped straight into, depending on what you're using it for. There's bittering hops that we use during the boil. Making the beer when the beer is in when the wort is in the kettle, when we're dropping it in. But there's also dry hopping when the beer is about done with the fermentation stage. You can dry hop a beer, which is like we make some double IPAs, which are like double dry hop. We'll dry hop them twice after the fermentation process.
Well, I always love when I think it's Dogfish Head, where the guy was like, all right, I'm going to take this vibrating football thing, I'm going to put some hops on it, and it's just going to vibrate the hops into it.
Oh, that's actually so.
That's the story.
Yeah,
That's the story, and that it was done like that because there's the 90-minute. I think he has a 60-minute, a 90-minute, and the 120.
Those are all hop additions. So those will be hop additions during the boil of the wort.
Yeah.
Before you transfer it into the fermenter for fermentation. So he's just dropping them in. Those are usually bitter hops. So those go in, they'll usually add bitterness or aroma or flavor to the wort before it goes in to the fermenter. So then we can add the yeast to turn it into alcohol. And then we also add hops while it's in the fermenter as well.
Now, when you have the hop pellets, is it hops that can be reused, or is it the yeast?
It's the yeast.
It's the yeast.
So yeast can be harvested. We harvest yeast about up to like 7 to 8 cycles. Some breweries can go up to like 10 to 13 cycles if they do very well. We usually go about 7 to 9, I would say, cycles to where we harvest the yeast. But it just all depends on production as well. Some breweries are constantly making the same beer. We also make different beers.
Yeah.
Are you using caramel malt in this, or like more traditional?
For green eyes, it's all Pilsner malt, mostly, yeah, exactly. There is a slight bit of carafoam, which helps with head retention, but there's no actual like
Traditional West Coast.
Yeah, exactly. Very traditional. Exactly. Very traditional. Keeps it very like crisp, but then the hops have that bitterness that you get, that punch you get from your traditional West Coast IPA.
I mean, just from the color of the gas.
Yeah, exactly. We do make a lot of beers though that usually have a little more caramel into it, which you'll see the darker hue of the beer into it. It's back to you now.
Okay, thanks, Sean. His name's John, by the way. He's our
Hi, John.
assistant brewer. I'm Matt, I do sales. Hard to believe, I'm sure. So the beer you guys have now is the other sour beer that we produce out of our oak foeder. So it's a Solera style. Both of them are Solera styles, which means if the foeder, the barrel holds 100 barrels, we draw 20 off and then age it on fruit. This is Jazz Chickens, yeah. This fruit
This one's really good.
blackberry, I believe. So after spending like 6 months in the oak with lactobacillus yeast, which is a wild yeast, we draw 20 barrels off, age it for another 3 months with fruit, and then we keg it off. I think this is definitely a beer style that will stand out with. For us, if you are a
I'll
sour
take another one.
beer
This is the
drinker,
Jazz Chickens?
For me, I think this is as good as it gets. Again, very biased. I mean, man, like, so, as far as I know, brewers are just crazy people that throw words together and come up with names. Like, that's, as far as I know, everyone's trying to be esoteric and out weird each other when it comes to beer names. I think John might have a better explanation of that.
I don't have a good explanation for this. One of our head brewers right now, though, he does play in a jazz band. He plays jazz all around. He plays upright bass, which I'm guessing maybe the brewer that originated this beer maybe also played in jazz or was in the jazz scene somewhere in New York City. Because as I've come to find out, there's a lot of brewers within the jazz scene all over New York. So, but I'm not sure where this name came from, to be honest. But it works. Everybody likes it. And that's cool.
I think we nailed it with the name, but again, I get this question all the time. I'm like, I don't know, man. It just sounds good.
Jazz Chickens with blackberries.
Lactobacillus is the yeast, and so it's sort of bacterial yeast. Wow. Bacterial yeast, and it's house cultured. Yeah, it's like sourdough bread, right? Like, it just stays, and it's now we have this mother house yeast that lives in this big barrel, and if it ever gets out, all the other beer is screwed. So
Yes.
yeah, that's
I was gonna say, it's like I've heard about when you make some of the sours, that whatever you make it in, that's it. That's gotta make. You can't do anything else with it.
That's why I think Goza is a very popular style of beer for a lot of breweries today, because you don't have that wild factor to it. You are putting the yeast in the kettle, which you can then clean, and it's not getting in the air. transfers for the hose, if I'm not mistaken. I nailed it.
I was
Yes,
also
sir. Hold on one second, buddy.
Have you guys done the experimentation with these new, like, the Philly sour, the yeast and the genetically modified to, like, produce the acid, or you just go straight to lactic?
No, we just want everyone to know Keg and Lantern first, I guess, and then we'll really get probably wild. Yeah, it's we'll turn a profit, and
You're
then
already doing good sour beers without it, then you don't need it.
So this is blackberry month, right?
Yes.
So can we get a preview what the next fruit
so right now with our distributor we have a couple cases and kegs of passion fruit and guava that's pretty much pushed through. After that, we have our berry bomb, which is Chilean blackberry, raspberry, cherry. Oh, strawberry, right? Not cherry. Strawberry, blackberry, raspberry. And after that, we're thinking about tart, cherry, and lime, which should take us into like October, where, I don't know, sour pumpkin. Anybody? Sound good to anybody? No?
pumpkin.
Cranberry and thyme? I don't know.
Sour cranberry sounds good.
Sour cranberry, yeah. Sour apple. Although apple has like a...
Sour watermelon, sour pomegranate.
We actually did try to get tart cherry, and right now it's like half impossible to find tart cherry through anybody. Through all the distributors at least that we use for our fruit puree and stuff. So we were thinking of making a small, at our Greenpoint location we have a 3-barrel system. We have 10 3-barrel fermenters there. And we were thinking of doing sour in one of our kettles there, and we couldn't find any cherry for it. So, but when we do, we'll definitely put one out. Even if it's not the season for it, we'll end up putting it out just because we love it. You like it? Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
I used to drink this. I don't know if it was this one or another one of yours that you guys stocked here, but I used to drink it all the time.
Yeah? Was it very long, or was it?
How long ago?
How long ago?
It was like probably last, I want to say March, the latest.
I think it might be strawberry.
Niagara grape.
Oh, it was probably the grape one, yeah. Niagara grape.
Did
Yeah.
it have the same color?
No, it was a little bit lighter.
Okay.
Slightly lighter.
Not that much.
As a small brewery, do you guys have any trouble like sourcing hops, or because you don't have the contracts? Do you have any trouble like that?
So, as of right now, not really. The only problem is that there are very popular hops that do come out, and when they do come out, it's hard to get your hands on them unless you're a huge brewery that gets contracted out and gets reached out by those hop companies. Like right now, this summer season, Rwaka, I don't know if anybody's heard of Rwaka, but Rwaka was a huge hop for this season, and we could only get, I think, like 44 pounds of it at once, which we only could use for our like 3-barrel batches. So it was hard. Our 3-barrel batches, usually we might send some kegs down to our Red Hook location of it, but it doesn't get distributed out like most of our other beers do. That's usually just in-house, so people can come and try it in-house. Hopefully though, we are getting a little bit bigger now to where we are having companies reach out to us to try to get hop contracts out. So hopefully now we'll start getting more of those more popular hops coming into us so we can use them. Another one out right now that's huge, that's going to become huge, is Nectaron. Nectaron's a huge hop. I don't know if anybody's heard of that, but it's a new strain. And it's good stuff. So
Now I feel like
we're
growing.
our hands on that.
I feel like I should grow hops in my backyard and be like,
Hey, if you could, you should.
I mean, I come into the brewery like, you need some hops.
There you go. Hey, get a small brewery you can find and sell them all the hops you can. Make some good money.
Hops, I've got hops.
If you had a pound,
Any questions? Oh, what was it?
if you had a pound of Melba in your refrigerator, would it like taste like strawberry or something like beer?
It's a very fruit forward. Yeah.
Do you have a beer you think you use that
I'd probably use it in a wheat beer. I'm not sure exactly what, but in a wheat beer, because any fruit forward hop with a wheat beer goes really well. Actually, at our Greenpoint location, we just put out a mango wheat beer where we didn't use anything crazy. It's mostly wheat malt and a little bit of Pilsner malt mixed into it. For the yeast, we used US 04, which is very neutral yeast, not fruit forward. We want to keep it neutral at first. And we ended up putting about 80 pounds, or 80 gallons, I guess, I don't really know how much that comes out to, of mango puree into it. We call it 2 for Tango Mango. It's one of the beers. You can only find that at our Greenpoint location though. We're gonna send some kegs down to our Red Hook location, but most of those things like that are like really specialty, unfortunately we don't make enough of it to really push out into distribution. But you can always come and check it out if you got the chance to. Yes.
So like, do you have any like cans on there? Or would you just have to get a can?
With those, since it's a 3-barrel batch, it's so small, we don't can it off. Usually the cans, anything that's canned that we make, is made in our bigger facility down in Red Hook, where we make 20-barrel batches of it, so we can some of it off and push it on to distribution. So yeah, unfortunately that you have to like go to the location.
If you have such a small batch, do you even have enough to make a growler? Like, or
Yeah, we could. Unfortunately, we could. We don't offer that in our locations, unfortunately. We used to offer growlers, which were canned growlers. The can, it's like 32 ounce or something like that. We used to offer that, but we got away from that during the pandemic because it just wasn't moving a lot. So we 16 ounce.
Well, so we moved.
We were doing crowlers, but we moved to this, once we started canning 16-ounce cans in 4-packs, we figured, you know, we'll sell those instead. A little bit better price margin, I guess. And also, all these questions that you're asking is why I brought someone who makes the beer, because they're invaluable for the beer process and the beer question answering, as it turns out. So, any more questions that I can direct over here at my man, John?
Bottle or can?
Ooh, I would, just from my expertise, I guess you call it, I would say can. Only reason being is because bottles do let light through, and light does affect beer over time. If you leave a bottle of beer and a can of beer beside each other, let's say in the windowsill for a week, in that week, you grab that can, put it in the fridge, you grab that bottle, put it in the fridge, and then try to drink it, you'll taste the difference. Usually that bottled beer will be slightly oxidized in some way, and the light does affect it. That's why you see like Heineken, if anybody's had Heineken before, if you drink Heineken, it kind of has like a skunky taste to it. They use green bottles to try to keep light out, but no matter what, that light's gonna get into it over time from distribution and stuff like that, so it becomes skunky over time. If you go to like Amsterdam and go to the Heineken factory and go drink some Heineken there from when they make it, it tastes a lot different from what we drink here in the States. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be the same thing you're going to get there than you get here, because over time that beer does go bad.
I know there's the one brewery that like, there was the one brewery that was running commercials like, hey, yo, our containers, the box comes up higher so that the light doesn't get in and affect the bottles.
So I think that was Sam Adams, exactly, and it's true. It's true. So their boxes are, if you look at Sam Adams boxes, they're a little bit taller than most other beer boxes. Like if you grab an 18 rack or a 12 rack of some bottles, you'll see, or 6 rack, you'll see that their cardboard comes up a little bit higher and covers the beer more, so it keeps the light out to keep the beer fresher over time. It's a very, very small difference that can make a big difference in the taste over time. Very good question. So cans, yeah, cans for me all day. So there was, we weren't as big of a brewery enough to be affected by it, but if you go to a brewery like Brooklyn Brewery and stuff like that, where they get their cans from a certain person, like Ball, I don't know if y'all heard of Ball, like they make the mason jars and stuff. They were making breweries, or any company really, they were making them choose a year, or make them buy like a year's worth at a time during the shortage, because it was so bad. They were like, okay, we're not gonna sell you, a quarter at a time. We gotta sell you a year at a time, and you gotta commit to this. Luckily, we weren't affected by that, because that would have sucked. We didn't get affected by that either, luckily. So bigger breweries did, where they couldn't get enough carbon, because carbon dioxide, CO2, is used to preserve beer, if anybody didn't know that. So our fermenters and any tank we use, our brights, our fermenters, our serving tanks, we make sure we put CO2 into them to almost create a blanket to make sure that no oxygen gets into it. Once oxygen gets into any tank or anything like that, over time, or quickly too, overnight, it can even oxidize a beer, which will make off flavors and make it taste very different. So we use carbon dioxide every day, just to make sure, even just to purge. We clean a tank before we put a new beer in. We make sure we purge that tank, which means we stick a CO2 nozzle on there, make sure we push CO2 through it to make sure all the oxygen is out of the tank before we put a new beer into there, or we put wort into there before we start.
Just don't put caustic soda in there with the CO2 in there.
If we put caustic, so caustic soap is very, very bad, very, very strong. We make sure we rinse out our tanks very well with really hot water before we put anything else into it, and then we make sure we cool them down before we put our wort into it as well.
Yeah, because it's just be, oops.
Caustic is good, make sure it cleans so you have a fresh tank, but it can be very bad if you leave it in the tank when you put beer into it. So yeah, any other questions about blackberry, Jazz Chicken's blackberry? Does anybody have any questions about that before we move on to the next beer? Seems like everybody's enjoying it. This is the last beer, right? Never mind, this is the last beer. I didn't know who was doing that quick. Look at that. I'll give it back to you now.
Yeah, so I guess any more questions? Show of hands, favorite pocho? Nobody. Golden Ale.
I like them all very equally.
Sour beer I love.
Is Jazz Chickens is yours?
Oh, the sour one.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's free form right now. We can all just talk at this point. It's all good. Any IPA heads in here with any comments, concerns, questions about the Green Eyes that John has not answered that I could probably not answer myself? So that's Centennial, Cascade, Chinook, and Columbus, which are considered, I guess, the big West Coast style hops. Pacific Northwest, yeah. Real dang heady, I guess, if you will. Greg, we gotta be itching. Anything? Nothing. All right. Nailed it.
We enjoyed them. We enjoyed them.
I'm happy that you guys enjoyed them. I mean, it's hard to impress beer heads. I hope we did. And again, thanks for having us. Keg and Lantern.
Here's the Keg and Lantern. It's coming to Staten Island. And thanks to all of you for coming out to Beer Club. And you know, your homework assignment is to go to other places and ask for Keg and Lantern. Say, hey, we had Keg and Lantern over at Hop Shop. How come you don't have it? You know? That's what this is about, building the craft beer community. And you guys are it. So, congratulations to you. Next month, it's not quite locked in, but 98%, we're gonna have Wild East come down. So that should be fun. You guys have heard of them. I think we might have something on them right now from them. Oh no, I just took it off. I just took it off to put you guys on. Yeah. So that should be a real good one. That'll be the last Thursday.
I'll
What date
take
is
the
that?
green one. I want to have a full for the number of the Green Eyes.
29th of September. But look on Facebook, Instagram, and we'll have that information for you. And I hope to see all your faces again. And thanks so much for coming to Hop Shop.